This is our next episode on gender equality. This is a very interesting, a very special episode because we have Dr. Sudhir Bhave and his daughter, Dr. Neha Bhave, both psychiatrists. Dr. Sudhir Bhave is an MD in psychiatry from PGI Chandigarh, one of the premier medical institutes in the country. Apart from other honorary teaching positions in various institutions in the city, he is a founder of and a professor in Department of Psychiatry at the NKP Sarve Institute of Medical Sciences and Lata Mangeshkar Hospital, Nagpur. A postgraduate teacher and guide, a popular veteran of more than 3 decades in this field, and having treated more than 60,000 patients till date. He has authored many books and has published more than 25 papers in reputed medical journals. He has been a recipient of several prestigious awards, including the Nagpur Bhushan Award, bestowed annually to one person from a city for professional social excellence. Dr. Neha Bhave Salankar is a consultant psychiatrist based in Nagpur. She topped in a final MBBS exam and also bagged the coveted gold medal in medicine in Maharashtra University of Health Sciences. She went on to do her MD in psychiatry from the Institute of Psychiatry and Human Behavior in Goa, where she won a gold medal in her MD exam. She also took training in child and adolescent psychiatry at the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore. Currently, Dr. Neha works as a consultant at the Bhave Clinic in Nagpur. Dr. Neha is also involved in conducting seminars and talks, both online and offline, for students as well as their parents. And this is an interview conducted by the daughter of her father. This is a very special interview because this interview seems like a conversation between a father and a daughter. And this interview covers many important topics. It seems like a conversation, but the questions were predetermined. Questions were specific on gender equality and daughters in a patriarchal society. This interview covers very important topics like how to bring up a daughter from a father's perspective, how to bring up a daughter in a patriarchal society, what the daughter goes through, and how the father teaches daughter about gender equality. A very interesting conversation between two intellectually brilliant people. It's indeed a pleasure for us to have Dr. Sudhir Bhave and Dr. Neha Bhave. Please watch.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Neha Bhave, consultant psychiatrist from Nagpur, and it's a great pleasure to record this interview with my father, Dr. Sudhir Bhave. Let's start with the questions. So, sir, how has it been bringing up a daughter in a patriarchal society? You have 2 daughters, so how has it been?
Yeah. See, actually, in my family, I think, right since my childhood, as I can remember, we did not really have patriarchal values. To tell the truth, it was always my mother who was the man in the family. So, we didn't have a typical patriarchal setup. So, those were the kind of values that I was brought up with. And thus, when bringing up my daughters, that idea of patriarchy perhaps never came up. And since there was no young boy in the family, there was no occasion when I would prefer a boy for something over the girls that I had.
All right. So, society has been calling daughters and girls things like parai beti, paraya dhan, and which can sometimes be a little hurtful or insulting to girls. So, what would be your advice to parents who have daughters and also parents who have sons? How do you think one should raise their sons and daughters?
Yeah. I think you are very right when you say that parai beti, paraya dhan is kind of a social meme that we have in our country. Now, in my opinion, it's a completely orthodox idea. Sadly, for centuries or maybe millennia, this idea has persisted. But my advice to any parent, whether he has boys or girls, is that from the very childhood, the idea of patriarchy should not be sown in their minds. Gender equality is something that should be and can be inculcated right since childhood, whether you have a boy or a girl. So, while you're parenting, for example, a girl, she should never be made to feel that, she belongs to an inferior sex. So statements like, I mean, these are very common statements कि यहाँ पे चल जाएगा, ससुराल जाएगी तो कैसा होगा. I mean, all those kind of statements that build a typical stereotype in a girl's mind that I'm a girl, I've got to behave like one, I have got to follow all the social restrictions that a girl is required to follow. So I think that should be completely out. And there should be equality, gender equality in a family.
Right. Another comment which I personally feel is a little odd is, I mean, I got it a lot when I have a daughter and I had a son after that. And then a lot of people said कि अब तुम्हारी family complete हो गई है. And I always used to think that, wait a second, like it was me, my parents, and my sisters. So it was four of us, and it never felt incomplete in any manner, you know. So, and I also wonder whether people who have a first son and a second daughter also get comments like these, you know. So maybe the audience can tell us in the comments if, you know, they've been in this situation.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to what I said earlier, I mean, you said about अपनी बेटी लेकिन पराया धन. I have often told people that आपकी लड़की जब ससुराल जाती है तो पराया धन नहीं हो जाती. मैं कहता हूँ कि पहले एक घर की बेटी होती है, बाद में दो घरों की बेटी हो जाती है.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. What is a gentleman according to you?
A gentleman, according to me, I would think that he is a person who has a dignified behavior, who treats all with respect. I mean, no matter what the gender is, no matter what the social stratum is, I think somebody who treats everybody courteously, who is chivalrous, I think he for me is a gentleman. Gentlemanliness for me does not like in the way the person dresses, does not like in the coat or the tie, but the character. I mean, the way you behave in society.
Right. All right. So, what would you say in support of gender equality? I think you made it obvious in your previous answer, but what are your views on gender equality?
Yeah, I think gender equality is extremely essential. Now, unfortunately, as we see, I mean, for so many centuries, most societies on earth have been patriarchal. And I would think that main reasons for patriarchy probably lies in the man being the breadwinner in the family. So the entire family is dependent on him for their daily bread. And secondly, and for a very unfortunate reason, simply the muscle power. I mean, the man can dominate over the woman simply by virtue of a bigger body and more muscular body.
Right.
And I think that's not the way the sexes need to be evaluated with regard to their value. But I think we have to go beyond the physical makeup, beyond the earning capability. In fact, these days, even the economic criterion is no longer existing. I mean, in so many families, women are earning, and in some families, earning more than men.
Right.
So I think equality is extremely important. Women can be equally capable as men in so many areas. In many areas, they are superior to men. Women have been a homemaker for centuries. And frankly, I feel that the job of a homemaker in most instances is perhaps more difficult than a job of a person who goes to the office and earns money for his family.
Right.
So the role that the women play in society, I mean, looking after family, looking after the kitchen, rearing children, I mean, looking after children's studies, I think that is something that perhaps goes beyond the role of a male in a family.
Right.
So I think for these reasons, a perceived equality between genders is, I think, that's very important.
And I would just like to add to that, I think maybe a good starting point for gender equality would be equal opportunity. Because like you said, there are some obvious differences between males and females, between their primary roles. But I think as long as people give equal opportunity to both girls and boys, I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Right. So we all have a vision of how we want to raise our children. And when your daughters were born, did you ever think that, these are some specific values or principles that I want them to have being girls?
No, never, absolutely never. I mean, I never thought that since these two are daughters, I need to teach them. I mean, the usual things like how to sit and how to dress and what to wear, what not to wear, by what time you got to come back home. So, I mean, for me, I mean, these were never important. I have always believed that if you raise up children well, if you put your trust in them, I mean, then children learn to behave responsibly. I mean, unfortunately, I see so many parents who do not seem to trust their daughters. about with whom are they talking, with whom are they having a relationship. So, as we say in mental health, the locus of control lies outside the daughter.
Right.
It's the parents who are controlling the daughter. I mean, if you place your trust in your children, you tell them, "Ki, beta, I know that you won't do anything wrong. I believe in you." Then the locus of control goes within, and the child learns to control his or her behavior more responsibly.
Right.
So for me, I mean, it was never. I've got to raise them like girls.
Yeah. I can vouch for this. I mean, when we were growing up, he was the one who taught me how to blow bubble gum bubbles and whistle. And this is a fact which would always somehow surprise my friends. For us, it felt very natural, but for a lot of them, hey, your papa taught you. So it was like a amusing thing for them to hear. So how has it been raising women in today's world with the intersection of increasing freedom at an individual level, but societal gender norms or patriarchy not having changed as much?
Yeah, um, I I think I'm quite sympathetic to many women. I mean, who I often say are given wings by their parents. I mean, educating a girl just like a boy. I mean, she goes to management school, she goes to some IIT, but then very often clipping their wings. I mean, this I see so often. I mean, so many youngsters come to me as a mental health professional, and I mean, they are grudging about the parents that my father has educated me, but he is not allowing me to move outside the city because I want to say do some job somewhere. He doesn't want me to go to this particular company because it does not have a branch in Nagpur and things like that. So I think these are some difficulties that modern women are facing. I mean, they are at a junction where they are being educated, they are being taught, but then very often they are not allowed to do what they would really want.
Right. But having said that, have you ever been concerned about your daughter's safety while they've been out, when they were getting their education or traveling or
Yeah, I think daughter safety is important. It has always been important. Um, I think there are two things that maybe I followed. One was, as I said earlier, placing trust in them, improving their own superego, as we say. I mean, I believe in you. I know you won't go wrong. So I think that's, in my opinion, that's a very good way of ensuring that your daughters don't endanger themselves in undesirable situations. And secondly, I think me and your mother, I mean, we were often friends with your friends. I mean, we knew who you were mingling with,
yes.
which group you were into, and if you said I'll come home late tonight. I mean, we knew with the kind of people you are with. So yeah, I mean, we never had those kind of anxieties that many parents have.
Right.
She has not returned so far. I mean, what has happened
Right.
to her?
Right. All right. What advice would you give to parents of young girls?
Uh, Now, I think I have alluded to in one of the earlier answers. The simple advice would be while raising young girls, don't raise them any differently from what you would have done with a young boy. Um, Educate them to the best of your ability, put your trust in them, help them believe in themselves. I mean, you believe in them so that which makes them believe in themselves. And please don't try to put any barriers in their growth. I mean, I see, as I've said earlier, parents often don't let girls enter particular professions because these professions are meant for boys. Or no, you can't go to this place because that place could be risky. I mean, unreasonable kind of barriers which are put. So just don't ever do it. And if you have boys, I mean, it's equally important that you raise boys with the thought of gender equality in their minds.
Right. Right. All right. So you were the only male in your household before your sons-in-law came along. So what was that like, being surrounded by three women for so many years?
I had not thought of that. I mean, it was, I mean, as you rightly said, I was the only man in the house for a long, long time. And after my father passed away. But then I have always been comfortable with girls and ladies. Now, being a doctor and seeing so many female patients maybe helped it. But the comfort level was always there. And I may not have told you this earlier, but before you were born, I didn't want a girl. So I mean, female sex is something that I've always chosen. So yeah, I mean, it was never anything unusual.
Yeah, and it didn't hurt that you only had about 1 or 2 spare hours every day, so not too much time to be spent there. All right. What is the most common difficulty you see women facing nowadays in your practice?
Uh, Now, some of the most common difficulties, I think they have got to do with patriarchy, misogyny. Now, let me look at this it this way: before marriage and after marriage. Now, before marriage, the kind of difficulties that I have seen women faces, something that I've said earlier. I mean, they are educated, but they're not given enough wings to really fly high, with the kind of restrictions that I've talked about earlier. After marriage, unfortunately, I mean, though the girl is educated, the girl is earning, but then the parents-in-law and maybe other elders in the family belong to a generation which perhaps does not know, does not understand gender equality. I mean, there are families which have for generations followed misogyny, patriarchal families. So, I mean, the expectations from a daughter-in-law, I mean, many of them my patients, I mean, are very typical of an Indian society. Like, you could be in a job, but then you must take care of the house like any housewife would. I mean, if you can't do that, then you need to leave your job. I've come across many young professionals who are very happy in their professions, but unfortunately, they enter, say, for example, business families who want them to leave their profession and follow the business in the family, because I mean, money is more important to them than the passion of the young bride who has come into their homes. So these are some difficulties that we see. Now, these are more of urban difficulties that we come across. If we talk of rural areas, it's a little better than Taliban. I mean, things are quite bad. Girls are not educated. They are not educated beyond a particular limit. When they go to their in-laws, very frequently they are not allowed to take up a job. They are expected to follow the typical patriarchal family values. So, I mean, in many ways, in India, at most of the places, things are not easy for women. So, women who do come up on their own, reach great heights, I think for me, I mean, they are doing something more significant than a man who achieves the same heights in a new profession.
Right. All right. So, how can we decondition ourselves of gender roles and norms that oppress women today? So, what have you done in your house or work in that regard? One thing you mentioned was, raising boys with gender equality in their mind, which I think is very valuable.
Yeah.
Apart from
Yeah.
that, what would you suggest?
I think whatever changes need to happen, I mean, they are more likely to happen with the next generation, depending on how you raise them. Because I mean, the senior generation is already cast in a particular mold, and it's almost impossible to shake off all the values that you have been building up for so many decades. So I would not expect a 40, 50, 60-year-old mind to really change. But I think as a parent or a grandparent to a small boy or girl, I think it's important to inculcate the values of gender equality from the very beginning, not treat boys or girls differently. I mean, the entire language in the home should not revolve around things like this is not expected from girls. अच्छे घर की लड़कियां ऐसा नहीं करती. Now,
Right.
अच्छे घर की लड़कियां is something which beats my logic. I have never understood what अच्छे घर की लड़कियां is. But I mean, that kind of language also should be completely out. Just to add to that, I think media also has got a role to play. Like, I mean, just to give an example, in movies, we often see, especially the earlier movies, the man stalking the woman and then being after her, singing songs, the woman not liking it. But ultimately, all that stalking leads to her coming to love him. And then he gets her through all that continued stalking and harassment. So I think that gives a sense of entitlement to men that since I'm a man, I mean, I own her. I own her body. So I think that's the kind of thing that has to be avoided.
Right. And coming to my next question, like you mentioned, media and portrayal of male roles versus female roles. So, in your opinion, what do you think are the top reasons for crime against women, or what could be the psychology of the perpetrator?
I think we talk of crime against women. I mean, one of course are biological reasons. A man with a high sex drive, which he is unable to control, and does not have adequate moral conscience to really control himself. And I think patriarchy has got a very major role in that. Now, just think of a society where, say, theoretically, there is no patriarchy, no matriarchy, no patriarchy. I mean, both the sexes are equal. I'm very certain that in those societies, the sense of entitlement that I alluded to earlier would not be there. I mean, both are brought up in a similar fashion. Both are brought up with a thought that they need to respect the opposite sex, uh, no matter what your gender is. So I think patriarchal belief system, patriarchal value systems are one of the major reasons of crime, apart from the media thing that I mentioned earlier. So I think if a parent is, I would say, aware enough, wise enough to raise children rightly, then lot many women's crime against women can be prevented.
All right. So that's it from our end today. It was a great pleasure having this conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
This was very enlightening and very informative episode. A very interesting conversation, and I'm sure we all learned about how a father should bring up a daughter in a patriarchal society. I'd like to thank you both, Dr. Sudhir Bhave and Dr. Neha Bhave, for coming in our channel in this episode. Thank you very much.